I don't think I ever told you guys that I'm a pretty big fan of Mortal Kombat. I did that one commentary back in 2019, but I don't think that really got across that I'm a fan of the series. I haven't owned a game since MK vs. DC, but I did rent all three of the NRS games on PlayStation Now, and I can say that I thoroughly enjoyed them. Now, when you're a decently popular game franchise that's been running for 30 years now, you're bound to have some tie-ins down the road. And boy, has that never been truer than with this series. We all know about the shitty Mortal Kombat movies that have been kind of a meme among the community, given their awful stories and even worse acting. But at the very least, we did get Kerry Tagawa as Shang Tsung out of them. But if you want to know the worst cash-in they've ever done, it's the 90s cartoon, Mortal Kombat Defenders of the Realm. It's not as well known as the movie franchise, but anyone who does know of it is savvy on how horrendous it is. It ran for one season in 1996, and the way it was handled almost made it look like it was a half-assed attempt at slitting the series' throat early on in its life. So what exactly does this thing do wrong? Well, for one thing, it's a kids show. Yes, you heard that right. They took a fighting game that is so notoriously violent that it was one of the catalysts for the ESRB rating and adapted it to be suitable for 7-year-olds. You can't make Mortal Kombat without graphic violence. That's like making Emerson, Lake, and Palmer without Emerson and Lake. Speaking of exclusions, the show also omits several important characters from the games, such as Molina, Sindel, Kung Lao, Goro, Kintaro, and perhaps the biggest sin of all, Johnny Cage. Baraka, Reptile, and Jade do at least get XPs on themselves, though. Though I question why the fuck they go through the trouble of that instead of just grabbing the actual characters. In fact, the only good thing they did was introduce Quan Chi. That just leaves me with the story. Apparently this show takes place after the events of Mortal Kombat 3, but I highly doubt it's canon, and that's for the better. To give a good look at this show, I'm going to start with this first episode, usually a good starting point. This episode starts out with a wolf prowling in a cave. It stumbles upon Nightwolf in a command center of some kind, furiously typing away at a control panel. The wolf pounces on Nightwolf and they tussle a bit. This is actually Nightwolf's pet, Kiba. He tells it to settle down because he's busy, and literally a second later gets a transmission from Liu Kang.
Nightwolf, this is Liu Kang. Do you read?
You're gonna have to speak up!
Yeah, I'm not playing around or anything. The audio balancing here is that bad. For some reason, they decided to have Liu Kang be quieter than the background music. Just because he's speaking through a live feed doesn't mean you guys have to emulate the actual audio problems that come with it.
Read and see, satellite has you.
What is it this time?
Sensors are detecting cybers. That probably means Sector and Cyrex are behind this invasion.
Let us know when you have a head count. Out.
The voice acting here. Why is it so flat? I'm not asking them to freak the fuck out, but they could at least be a little more concerned that they're getting bombarded. Instead, they sound like they're bored. I mean, I guess I can't blame them all too much. I'd be too if I was in this show.
Mortal Kombat begins again.
He said the title, guys! We cut to the heroes who are actually in the line of fire, and we get a nice sample of just how sugar-free the action in this show is.
Take it slow. With Sector and Cyrax, we're not dealing with mindless cybernetics.
They better have brains, because they sure be ugly.
Let's start toasting those freaks!
Oh yay! More bad voice acting! Here though, they're not even trying to be consistent with the voice direction. Why are Stryker and Jax doing ASMR while Sonya is the only one with any emotion here? I know full-fledged voice acting didn't grace the games until Mortal Kombat 4, which came out after this show, so pinning down which each character should sound like probably wouldn't have been easy. But here it feels like they just randomized the voices and went with those. Sonya and Liu Kang charge the Cyberlink way, and this shit happens.
Kitana?
Liu Kang. You're all right. I was afraid fear is a far greater adversary than the one we are about to face.
22 cybers have entered so far. The dimensional portal is still open, so more could be on the way.
Not on my watch.
Hey guys, I have this wonderful new writing tool for you to use. It's called pacing. What the hell even happened here? Why did Liu Kang just randomly start looking for Kitana? Why was Kitana just conveniently sauntering through the flames in the midst of a battle? She is a warrior princess. Shouldn't she be, fighting? And why did they have a meaningless exchange to be even more needlessly interrupted by Nightwolf? This is the literal first episode. You can't write it as if everyone's up to speed. Take the time to introduce plot points and characters the correct way. You might be a few minutes late to lunch, but it'll be worth it, I assure you.
We have to keep the cybernetic units from reaching the city.
Duh! No kidding, Stryker.
Good fucking grief. This is really the personality you're giving Sonya? Did you forget that she's supposed to be an army brat, not a goddamn cheerleader captain? Now would be a good time to include Johnny Cage in this, you fucknuts. Don't just give his personality to a totally different character. The Earthrealm heroes charge the Cyberlink Way, and we get our first full-fledged action scene. It's so underwhelming. Everyone just stands around waiting for the other to strike. Guys, you know Liu Kang's supposed to sound like Bruce Lee, not like he's passing a kidney stone. Seriously, how do you even make that sound? In fact, a lot of the sounds are recycled in this scene alone. Even if the show isn't very high budget, you could at least make it less obvious that you're reusing assets. While the Earthrealmers are busy, Kitana squares off with Sector.
Surrender, Princess Kitana. We are not only superior fighting machines, we outnumber you 28-1.
Great, even he sounds like shit. The other characters are badly voice acted, but at least I can understand them. I had to replay what Sector said here twice to make out anything. Their fight scene is terrible too. Kitana literally one-shots him.
Good form, Liu Kang.
They're in love, can you tell? There's no better way they could have conveyed that than by staring at each other randomly. I am not screwing around here. That is legit how they pace this, by having an ear-splitting scream just interrupt their longing gazes. Did they not think about how dissonant that might have been? Actually, I'd be genuinely surprised if they thought of anything during production of the show. They continue fighting the Cyberlink Way some more, but they're hopelessly outnumbered. And then Cyrax comes in.
Annihilate.
It didn't look like they were gonna do anything else. Was that command really necessary? Sub-Zero then enters the fray, and begins wrecking house all by himself with zero effort. The heroes take note of this, and Jack suggests they join him.
Are you nuts? We can't trust Sub-Zero. He's a traitor to his own clan.
Hey, I don't want to marry the guy, but he's giving us the edge we need.
I don't like this either, but we must eliminate the cybernetic units.
Then what are we waiting for?
You were the only one who was hesitating. The question is, what are you waiting for? They let Sub-Zero do most of the work, and they end up putting Cyrax and the other cybers on the ropes.
Sonya, finish them!
You fail. After the Cyberlink Way retreat, Stryker seals the portal, something he shouldn't be able to do. Really, he's just a regular cap in the games. In fact, why didn't any of the following games give him cool abilities like that? So they chat with Sub-Zero, and we get a callback to the movies where Liu Kang fights Bi-Han. They even include the bucket of water trump card. Sub-Zero explains to them why he betrayed the Lin Kuei and where he disappeared to, yet again acting like this isn't the first fucking episode of the show, and is actually here to warn everyone that Scorpion is planning to attack. Now, this is before Scorpion became as iconic as he is to the series now, so he barely has any impact on this show, only appearing in 2 episodes. Raiden shows up to basically say what Sub-Zero already told him.
Don't start with me, Jax. I've been with the Elder Gods. We have another crisis.
That's old news. Frosty here beat you to it.
Oh, so you brought word of Scorpion's impending invasion. Interesting.
Why did he look like he was gonna strangle him there? Actually, Raiden's kind of a dick in this show. It's pretty funny how he implicitly threatens Sonya when she gets in his face. He sends them on their way, and we get treated to a boring scene of them flying back to base. Legit, the only thing that happens during this scene is pointless chit-chat. The episode would have been the same without it. They arrive at base, and while they're preparing for Scorpion's assault, the base comes under fire from enemy forces. Sonya immediately points fingers at Sub-Zero, claiming he betrayed them, but he maintains his innocence. The heroes fight off the invading aircraft, and suddenly this goes from Mortal Kombat to Ace Combat. It turns out the ones piloting that jet were Tarkatans. Jeez, talk about adaptational intelligence. By the way, they're called Nomads in this show. They weren't actually named Tarkatans until Deception. But for the sake of not confusing my audience, I'll be calling them Tarkatans. The Tarkatans breach the base and are led by Karbrak. If you couldn't tell, that's an anagram for Baraka. I yet again question why they didn't just use him rather than make an XP. It's not like he's unique from Baraka or anything. Nightwolf and Sub-Zero fight the Tarkatans filling inside, and Sub-Zero confronts their leader.
Save the honor bull for someone who cares, traitor.
Okay, maybe this guy is unique from Baraka. He actually has lips. Sub-Zero beats the shit out of him in another poorly choreographed fight scene, and Raiden teleports the Tarkatans to a foreign realm of no name.
Okay, where's that two-faced frigid?
Easy, Sonya. He just risked his neck to help us.
I mean, if you call not even breaking a sweat risking your neck, then sure, why not? Sub-Zero is officially inducted into the Forces of Light, and Sonya apologizes for the hostility. Unfortunately, the alarm sounds again.
Combat alert! Big time!
Scorpion.
Mortal Kombat continues.
Not on my fucking watch! And that was Combat Begins Again. By the Elder Gods, this episode was trash. It was badly paced, had too much unnecessary dialogue, and the action was staler than Wonder Bread. You could tell this show was trying way too hard to be like the G.I. Joe cartoon, but it's unable to match its charm. I understand that the early Mortal Kombat games weren't very story-driven, so coming up with actual personalities for the characters might have been challenging, but with what they had to go off of, they didn't even try to make the characters believable in any way. You can probably chalk up much of my complaints to this show just not aging well, but that's moot judging how this show wasn't even well received when it came out. For what it's worth, the concurring movies had a better grasp on the characters than whatever we got here. I'm gonna have to give this episode a 3 out of 10, because on top of all the other problems it has, it's completely uninteresting, and that's not something I should be saying about a Mortal Kombat property. Thanks for watching. This is Nihilistic Snake slithering out of here.